What if everything you thought you knew about the death of the king of rock and roll was wrapped in silence and secrets? What if the one person who was there in those final heartbreaking moments carried a burden too heavy to share until now? After decades of whispers, speculation, and unanswered questions, Ginger Alden has finally broken her silence at 86 years old. The woman who shared Elvis Presley's last night on Earth is ready to tell the truth, and what she reveals will shake everything you believed about that tragic day.
I'd like to say hello to my girlfriend, Ginger. Ginger, stand up, honey.
A young, beautiful woman barely in her 20s finds herself engaged to the most famous entertainer the world has ever known. Elvis Presley was not just a name, but a phenomenon that changed music, culture, and history itself. Yet behind the glittering stage lights and screaming fans was a man struggling with demons that few could understand. Ginger Alden was there through it all. She witnessed the private Elvis, the vulnerable Elvis, the Elvis that the world never got to see. For years, she remained quiet, guarding her memories like precious diamonds locked away from prying eyes. But time has a way of loosening even the tightest grips on secrets, and now in her twilight years, Ginger has decided that the world deserves to know what really happened. Elvis Presley died on August 16, 1977 in his Graceland mansion. The official story stated that he was found unresponsive in his bathroom, and despite desperate attempts to revive him, the king was pronounced dead at the hospital. Heart failure, they said. Prescription drug abuse, others whispered. But what about the hours before? What about that last night when Elvis was still breathing, still hoping, still living? Ginger Alden was the only person who truly knows, and her revelations pay. At a picture far more complex and heartbreaking than anyone imagined. When Ginger first met Elvis in November 1976, she was just 20 years old. He was 41 and at a crossroads in his life. His marriage to Priscilla had ended years before, and despite his legendary status, Elvis was lonely. He craved genuine connection, real love, and someone who saw him as just a man rather than an icon. Ginger provided that refuge. She was young, innocent, and untouched by the cynicism of the entertainment world. Elvis fell hard and fast. Within weeks, he was talking about marriage, and by January 1977, he had presented her with a stunning diamond engagement ring. To the world, it seemed like a fairy tale, but behind closed doors, the reality was far more complicated. Elvis in his final months was not the vibrant performer who had conquered stages worldwide. He was battling weight gain, chronic pain, and a dangerous dependence on prescription medications. His personal physician, Dr. George Nikopoulos, was providing him with an alarming array of pills for sleep, for pain, for energy, and for everything in between. Ginger watched helplessly as the man she loved struggled to find peace in his own skin. She has now admitted that she tried to help him, tried to convince him to cut back on the medications and take better care of himself. But Elvis was stubborn. He believed he had everything under control. He thought he knew his body better than anyone else. That confidence would prove to be fatal. As Ginger describes it, the last day began like many others. Elvis had been up most of the night, which was normal for him. He was a night owl who rarely slept during conventional hours. His Graceland bedroom was kept in perpetual darkness, with heavy blackout curtains blocking any hint of daylight. In that cocoon of darkness, Elvis felt safe. On that final night, Ginger was by his side as always. They talked, watched television, and Elvis seemed relatively normal, though she noticed he was more restless than usual. He complained about not being able to sleep, which was a constant struggle for him. Around 2:30 in the morning, Elvis called his personal physician seeking relief. More pills were discussed, more attempts to chase the elusive comfort that seemed always just out of reach. What Ginger has now revealed is both touching and tragic. She admits that Elvis was scared. Not scared of death necessarily, but scared of losing himself. He confided in her during those dark hours that he felt his body betraying him. The man who had once moved millions with his hips and voice was now trapped in a form that no longer obeyed him. He was gaining weight no matter what he tried. His energy was fading. His performances were becoming harder to deliver, yet he refused to stop. He refused to cancel tours or disappoint his fans. Elvis Presley had built his entire identity on being the king, and he could not imagine stepping down from that throne even as it was crumbling beneath him. Around 9 in the morning on August 16th, Ginger was asleep when Elvis woke her. He told her he was going to the bathroom to read. This was completely normal for him. Elvis often took books into the bathroom where he would sit for extended periods. It was one of his strange habits that Ginger had learned to accept. She mumbled her acknowledgement and drifted back to sleep. That was the last conversation they ever had. Those mundane words were the final exchange between the king of rock and roll and the woman who loved him. Ginger has admitted that for years she tortured herself over that moment. What if she had stayed awake? What if she had gone with him? What if she had sensed something was wrong? But hindsight is a cruel companion, and in that moment there was no way for her to know what was coming. Hours passed. When Ginger finally woke around 1:30 in the afternoon, she noticed Elvis had not returned to Obed. A knot of concern began forming in her stomach. She called out for him but received no answer. She walked to the bathroom door and knocked. Silence. She knocked harder. Still nothing. Panic rising, she pushed open the door, and what she saw would haunt her forever. Elvis was lying face down on the floor. His body was cold and rigid. His face was buried in the thick carpet. Ginger screamed. She ran to him, shook him, called his name desperately, trying to wake him from what she prayed was just a deep sleep. But deep down, she knew. Elvis Presley was gone. The chaos that followed was a blur of sirens, paramedics, and disbelief. Graceland staff rushed to the scene. Emergency responders attempted CPR and rushed Elvis to the hospital, but it was far too late. By the time they arrived, doctors could only confirm what Ginger already knew in her heart. The king was dead. The world would soon erupt in grief, but in that moment, Ginger was trapped in a private hell of shock and sorrow. She has now admitted that she blamed herself for years. She wondered if she could have saved him if she had checked on him sooner. She wondered if her love was enough or if she failed him when he needed her most. These thoughts ate at her for decades. But what Ginger reveals now is perhaps the most important truth of all. She emphasizes that Elvis did not want to die. This was not a suicide. This was not a man giving up on life. Elvis had plans. He was supposed to leave for another tour. He was talking about the future, about marriage, about the life they would build together. Yes, he was struggling. Yes, he was dependent on medications. Yes, he was in pain. But he was fighting. He was trying. The tragedy was not that Elvis gave up, but that his body could no longer sustain the battle he was waging. His heart literally gave out under the strain of years of abuse, stress, and the relentless demands of me. Ginger also addresses the rumors and accusations that swirled around her after Elvis died. Some people in his inner circle blamed her. They said she was too young, too inexperienced to understand what Elvis needed. They suggested she should have done more to control his medication intake or alert others to his declining health. These accusations were vicious and unfair. Ginger was a young woman in love with a complicated man who was surrounded by enablers and, yes, men. She did not have the power to override doctors or force Elvis to change his ways. She could only love him, and that is exactly what she did. In her own words, she states, "I loved Elvis with all my heart. I did everything I knew how to do. I was 20 years old and trying to help a man the whole world wanted a piece of. I will not carry guilt for his choices anymore." The aftermath of Elvis' death was brutal for Ginger. The media descended on her like vultures. She was photographed, questioned, and scrutinized from every angle. The Presley family, understandably consumed by grief, did not always treat her with kindness. She was shut out of certain arrangements and made to feel like an outsider despite having been Elvis' chosen partner. The ring he gave her became a point of contention. Some family members wanted it back. Ginger refused. It was a symbol of Elvis' love for her, and she was not going to surrender it to people who had questioned her worth from the beginning. This caused rifts that took years to heal. For decades, Ginger lived a relatively private life. She wrote a book years later detailing her time with Elvis, but even then, she held back certain details. She was not ready to expose everything. She was still protecting him, still protecting their love, and still processing her own trauma. But now at 86, she has reached a point of clarity and peace. She no longer fears judgment. She no longer worried about what people think. She wants the record set straight. Elvis Presley was a human being. He was flawed, vulnerable, and struggling, but he was also loving, generous, and hopeful. His death was a tragedy, not a scandal. It was the result of a broken healthcare system that allowed doctors to overprescribe and a culture that worshipped celebrity without caring for the person beneath the fame. Ginger's emphasis on the truth is not just about clearing her own name. It is about honoring Elvis' memory in a way that respects his humanity. She wants fans to remember him not as a cautionary tale, but as a man who gave everything to his art and his audience. Elvis loved performing. He loved his fans. He loved music. Those passions sustained him even when his body was failing. Ginger recalls moments of joy even in those final months. She remembers his laughter, his playfulness, and his deep spirituality. Elvis read the Bible regularly. He believed in God and in an afterlife. He often talked about life's bigger questions and sought meaning beyond fame. These are the memories Ginger cherishes, and these are the truths she wants the world to know. One of the most powerful quotes Ginger shares is this: Elvis once told me that he feared being forgotten more than he feared dying. He said, as long as people remember the music, I will never really be gone. Every time someone plays one of my songs, I will be alive again. Those words resonate deeply, especially now, decades after his passing. Elvis music has indeed kept him alive. New generations continue to discover his genius. His influence permeates modern music in ways both obvious and subtle. He is remembered, celebrated, and immortalized. In that sense, Elvis achieved the immortality he craved. Ginger also admits something vulnerable and raw. She says, I never fully moved on from Elvis. I married later in life and I built a good life, but a part of my heart remained in that moment before I opened the bathroom door. That moment when Elvis was still alive and everything was still possible. I have lived my entire adult life in the shadow of that day, and only now do I feel ready to step into the light and speak my full truth. This admission is heartbreaking in its honesty. It reveals the depth of her love and the weight of the trauma she carried. The medical details surrounding Elvis' death have been debated endlessly. The official autopsy listed cardiac arrhythmia as the cause of death, essentially a heart attack. However, toxicology reports revealed significant levels of multiple prescription drugs in his system. Some experts argue that the drug combination contributed to or directly caused his heart failure. Others point to his genetic predisposition to heart disease and years of poor diet as major factors. Ginger believes it was a combination of everything. She states Elvis was fighting battles on multiple fronts. His body was exhausted. His heart could not keep up. The medications that were supposed to help him ended up being part of the problem. But I do not blame any one thing or any one person. It was a perfect storm of circumstances that led to tragedy. What makes Ginger Revelations so compelling is her refusal to sensationalize. She is not seeking attention or trying to profit from pain. She is simply an elderly woman who has carried a heavy burden for most of her life and has finally decided to put it down. She speaks with the calm authority of someone who has made peace with the past. She acknowledges mistakes, expresses regrets, but also stands firm in her truth. She loved Elvis. He loved her. They shared something real and beautiful, even if it was brief, and ended in heartbreak. That love deserves to be honored, not dissected by strangers who were not there. In sharing her story, Ginger also offers a message of forgiveness and healing. She forgives those who blamed her. She forgives herself for not being able to save Elvis. She has even forgiven the system that failed him. Holding on to anger and resentment only poisons the soul, she explains. I choose peace. I choose to remember the good times and let go of the pain. Elvis would want that for me. I know he would. This mindset is both mature and inspiring. It shows that even the deepest wounds can heal with time and intention. As Ginger reflects on her life, she expresses gratitude for having known Elvis. Despite the pain of losing him, she would not trade those months for anything. She states, loving Elvis was the greatest adventure of my life. It was intense, complicated, and ultimately tragic, but it was also filled with moments of pure magic. He made me feel special. He made me laugh. He showed me a world I never would have experienced otherwise. I am grateful for every second we had together. This gratitude is a testament to her character. It takes strength to find light in darkness, and Ginger has done exactly that. The lessons from Elvis' life and death are numerous. They speak to the dangers of fame, the failures of medical oversight, and the importance of mental and physical health. They remind us that even the most talented and beloved individuals are not immune to suffering. They highlight the need for compassion, understanding, and better support systems for those in the spotlight. Ginger hopes that by telling her story, people will look at Elvis with more empathy and less judgment. She hopes that his death will serve as a catalyst for change in how we treat celebrities and how we approach addiction and mental health. Elvis Presley died too young. At 42, he should have had decades of life ahead of him. He should have seen his daughter Lisa Marie grow up. He should have made more music, performed more shows, and experienced more joy. His death was a loss not just for those who knew him, but for the entire world. Yet his legacy endures. His music continues to inspire. His style continues to influence. His story continues to captivate. And now, thanks to Ginger Courage, we have a fuller understanding of his final chapter. As we close this chapter of Revelation, it is important to remember why stories like this matter. They matter because they humanize legends. They remind us that behind every icon is a person with fears, dreams, and struggles. They teach us that fame does not equal happiness, and success does not equal fulfillment. Elvis had everything the world could offer, yet he died alone on a bathroom floor. That stark reality should give us all pause. It should make us question what we value and how we measure a life well lived. Ginger's final message is one of love. She asks that people remember Elvis with kindness. She asks that his fans continue to celebrate his contributions to music and culture. She asks that his family find peace in knowing he is no longer in pain. And she asks that we all learn from his story. Life is fragile, love is precious, health is invaluable. Do not wait until it is too late to take care of yourself or to tell someone you love them. These are simple truths, but they are profound in their importance. So what do we take away from Ginger's admission after all these years? We learn that truth is complex. We learn that grief is enduring. We learn that love transcends time and tragedy. We learn that even in our darkest moments, there is space for redemption and healing. Ginger Alden at 86 has given us a gift. She has given us honesty, vulnerability, and a deeper understanding of one of the most significant events in music history. For that, we should be grateful. If this story moved you, if it made you think or feel or remember, then do not keep it to yourself. Share this video with fellow Elvis fans. Leave a comment below telling us what you think about Ginger revelations. Do you believe her? Do you have empathy for her position? What lessons do you take from Elvis' life and death? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into the untold stories of music legends. Like this video if you appreciate honest storytelling that goes beyond the headlines. And most importantly, keep the memory of Elvis Presley alive. Listen to his music, watch his films, share his story with younger generations. The king may be gone, but as long as we remember him, he will never truly die. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep seeking the truth behind the legends.